Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. What an incredible community of friends and extended family to show up for Shane at this time, to show up for Adam, and to show up really for each other. I want to introduce Alyssa Platkow. She's our rabbinic intern, and she has a much better voice than I do. Alyssa's going to begin us with a psalm, and then we'll begin our service with some reading.
May I know is free. Esainai el Hechorim. May I know is free. Esri me'ein Adonai. Oh, say, Shamayim v'aretz esri me'ein Adonai. Oh, say, Shamayim v'aretz.
I lift up my eyes to the heavens, and what is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul. You're going and you're coming now and forever. Amen. Our tradition teaches us that we should turn to the writings of the Psalm, the Tehillim, generally attributed to King David, his journal entries and reflections on all of the ups and downs of life, to find comfort and consolation in our present circumstance. It's a curious and maybe not so surprising thing that Judaism, the people of the book, would turn to writings that are 2,000, 3,000 years old to find wisdom and insight for present day. But it also tells us through sort of a telescopic view of time that what we experience now is no different from what the generations before us have experienced. Loss and death, love and relationship, they are the same back then as they are now. They are complicated and complex. Just read our Torah. Relationships are messy. It'd be so much easier if they didn't involve other people. And love is deep. And the connection between parent and child is something more than biological. So while I know many in this room didn't know Jeannette, in the fullness of her life, in the fullness of her health, you know this family. You know what they have gone through and what they are going through. You know how they have cared for her. And you're here caring for them now. And that too is something as ancient as our Psalms. To be that supportive and caring community, to surround our friends at the time they need us most, that's a huge mitzvah. And you're doing that right now just by being here. But in those writings and in those readings that come from our tradition, there is wisdom and insight, and I hope also words of comfort and consolation. In one of them, we read the following. Adonai, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains came into being, before you brought forth the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return us to dust and decree that we are mortal. For in your sight 1,000 years are as yesterday when it has passed as a watch in the night. You engulf us in sleep. We are like grass that renews itself. At daybreak it flourishes anew, and at dusk it withers and dries up. The span of our life is 80 years and 10, or given strength 80 years. But the best of those years have trouble and sorrow. They pass by speedily, and we are in darkness. Teach us, therefore, so to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Turn to us, O God. Show mercy to your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your love, that we might sing for joy all of our days. Let your deeds be seen by your servants, and your glory by their children. May your favor, O God, be upon us. Establish the work of our hands, that it may long endure. One of the works of Jeannette's hands was when Shane was young and playing hockey. She would lace up his skates. If you have ever been a hockey parent, you know that lacing skates is truly a selfless act of love. And maybe in that moment, Shane, Your mother was saying more than just, I'm going to tighten your skates. But it was a moment of care and concern, love and attention. Another reading, not from the Psalms, but rather a more modern poem from a teacher of mine, Rabbi Alvin Fine. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and back we pray to health again. From health to sickness, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life everlasting. The journey of Jeannette's life was difficult. It began far too soon. Adulthood began far too soon for her when her parents died. She was just 20, raising her younger sister as well as being in a brand new marriage. Being here, coming out here to Vancouver later in her life and leaving behind the community that she had helped with George to establish in Toronto. Finding home and connection and community here and then in the Louis Briar, those are all stops along the way. But we know in our own lives, and we can assume in hers, that it's not the places that you visit, but the people that you experience them with that make every journey meaningful and that make every moment matter. And her family and her broadening circle of friends and associates, they were the ports of call more than the places. It was the people that she was able to journey through life with. And those are truly the blessings in her life, even if it was a circuitous route to get there. One more reading from our tradition before I invite Shane to come and share some memories about his mom. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember her. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember her. In the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember her. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, for she's now a part of us as we remember her. And so let's remember her for blessing. Shane.
Not many of you had the opportunity to meet my mom, but you've all heard me tell stories over time. Let's just say you wouldn't really describe her as a glass half full person. We'll be honest today. She tended to see the negative in a lot of things. She had, as the rabbi mentioned, a difficult life. She lost both parents very early. Knowing how I feel now and knowing what it was like when my father passed, I can't even imagine at such a young age, just as you're about to start your life, not to have your parents there to help guide you and just support you as you made your way through life. Again, I can't even imagine what it must have been like for her. And I'm sure it affected her whole life. How could it not? But it's not like my mother wasn't self-aware. After she had a stroke about 10 years ago, the doctors had said to me, just be prepared, her personality might change. And we thought, oh, okay, there's still hope. And then as she recovered, a few months passed, and she said to me, I think I'm getting nicer. And I go, you know what, the jury's still out. We'll wait and decide. There's a story I want to share, but I don't think I can, that will tell you that the jury is back, and no, she didn't get any nicer, really. Maybe during the shiv after a cocktail, I'll share that story. Just tell me, hi, my name's Leslie, nice to meet you. That's all you have to tell me, and I'll remember that story. You'll appreciate it at the time. It doesn't seem right, though, now. Maybe at the end. As the rabbi mentioned, I started playing hockey when I was 9 years old. And seriously, you'd think I'd be better by now. My mom, as we said, never missed a game. Up at 5:30 in the morning for practices, for games, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. And as shocking as this will be for a lot of you to imagine, yes, my mom was the loudest person in the stands. Everyone heard her screaming and carrying on. I'm sorry, honey. When I'm at the soccer games, it's in my DNA. I can't help it. It's not like I have a choice. It's who we are. I was thinking the other day about when I was playing hockey, and as the rabbi mentioned, she would be tying up my skates. And I thought, at the time, she was ancient. I was 9 years old. It's your mom. She's an old lady. As I sat beside my mom's hospital bed for the last week, and I thought about different things, I realized she was 39 years old at that time. 39 years old. She already had a 19-year-old daughter, a 15-year-old son, me, and my younger brother. And I'm just thinking, 39, and so much happening, so much going on. I have one kid, 14, and I'm exhausted. I don't know if I'm coming or going at any point. I don't think I fully appreciated what it was like for my mom to be bringing up 4 monsters at the same time. My mom was tough. She battled breast cancer. She battled a stroke, COVID last year, all kinds of numerous infections. We used to joke that she would outlive us all. Nothing could take her down. Even the diseases that would show up would spend a little time and go, you know what, we're out of here. Every time she went to the hospital, we were prepared for the worst, like really prepared for the worst. I don't know how many times I'd gone through it. But it didn't matter. Every time I'd show up at the hospital after, a day, the doctor would go, we've never seen anything like this before. She seems to be getting better. She was already yelling at the nurses. Okay, it's unbelievable. And it's funny, she used to, when they would take her to the hospital, she would make them on the way out. She would make the people that worked either at Cavell Gardens or at Louis Breyer or at the hospital, don't call my son. Don't tell him he's too busy. He doesn't need to know I'm here. But if she thought that the cleaning staff was stealing her towels, she called me 11 times a day that we need to have a sting operation. They're taking all my stuff. I'd show up, she'd have a black eye. I go, what happened? I fell, I didn't want to bother you. But listen, can you do something about it? I think my teaspoon's missing. And the things that she thought, it was unbelievable. Remember, she thought the staff stole all her jewelry. She thought my wife's staff had stolen all her jewelry one day. We need to call the police. My parents divorced 41 years ago. Unfortunately, at that moment, it kind of caused a rift in my family that still exists today. Even though my parents divorced, when after her stroke and I realized I had to move my mom out here from Toronto, my dad was the one that drove us to the airport. And I used to think, going, wow, what a nice guy. I can't believe he's driving us to the airport. It's his ex-wife. And then as I've been thinking, like no joke, over the last 24 hours, who wouldn't want to drive your ex-wife to the airport? Yeah, man, she's moving away. My pleasure to take you. I'll do everything you need. Unfortunately, that was the last time I saw my dad. The time he drove us to the airport, he passed away pretty much a year later to the day. People are always telling me, oh, you're such a great son. You've done such a great job. Look what you've done for your mom. You know what? I don't feel that way. I feel like I did what was expected, what you had to do. There wasn't a choice of not doing. How could I? My wife, on the other hand, always, as you guys know, elevates the situation. Andrea made sure on every Hanukkah, Nana would have 8 presents to open. She took my mom shopping. She took my mom to get her hair done. I didn't do any of that. Andrea did that. For me, I moved across the country because I wanted to get away from my family. My wife, though, embraced them when they showed up. And remember, as she took her shopping and all these places, my mom wasn't gumdrops, rainbows, and all great stories. My mom was, my mom. So thank you so much, honey. I can't tell you how much it means to me. When she was taken to the hospital about 3 weeks ago, we knew it was likely the end. And when the doctors asked me about halting, life-extending procedures or treatments, and we decided, just focus on comfort. Like I'm sure a lot of people have experienced, it was difficult, it was hard to get your head around. How can I tell them, don't do anything, don't save her, just let her go? I needed to know if that was okay, and I was in the car with Arlo, and I said, we need a sign from Dad that we're doing the right thing, that this is okay. Now, I'll tell you a story to set up what happened next. When we were kids, we had the only Jewish relatives in Sudbury, Ontario, about 5 hours outside of Toronto. They had 3 boys, and we had to go for bar mitzvahs every year. So we piled the 4 kids in the car, and my parents, and we drove to Sudbury. And as some of you know or don't know, I'm the quietest one in my family. So as you can imagine, the 5-hour drive in the car was very loud. And at one point, my dad turned around and he said, "Sheldon, shut up." And we all stopped, because there is no Sheldon in my family. And me and my brothers and sisters looked at each other, and we just laughed, and we started talking. The dad had a different family. He had a quieter family and a nicer family than us. So then on my dad's Father's Day cards and things over the years, we would sign our names and we would sign Sheldon's name, just so Sheldon wouldn't be forgotten. Okay, so that was a thing we all knew. When my dad passed 9 years ago, about a year later, I went to Toronto, and me and my wife and my family and my sister and some of the cousins, we went to the baseball game. My dad loved baseball. We went to the Blue Jays game. I don't know, there's about 10 of us, 11 of us. And then after the game, I wanted a picture taken. We thought we should get a picture taken. So we just waited till the crowd filled out. We got the usher to come over. He took the picture, and I wanted to thank the usher, so I just went over to him to thank him. I looked at his name tag, Sheldon. And we were just like, oh my God, it's like my dad's here. It's like he's here. Like you just felt it. So now I'll go back to last week when I said to Arlo, we need a sign from Dad. We need something that will know I did the right thing. And I said it was okay. So I dropped Arlo off at school and I went into work. And a couple days earlier, I had asked someone, I was doing a project and I needed some families that just covered generations. Didn't matter. But when I walked into school, one of the women I worked with called me into the office and she goes, Shane, I was looking for those families. Do you know the Frankens? And I go, oh yeah, Josh Franken. I play hockey with him. She goes, no, Sheldon. And at that moment, I knew everything was okay. I knew there's no way. Sheldon's not a name that pops up. You don't hear Sheldon all the time. It's not like, it's like Karen almost, only nicer. Is there a Karen in here? Oh my God, I just didn't even realize. Do I have any? No, I don't. Okay. And that's when I knew it was okay. I knew finally that I did the right thing. And the rabbi, I sat down with the rabbi yesterday morning and he goes, give me some of the blessings from your mom. And I just thought, and I thought, and I thought. And then it dawned on me something that turned out that I didn't realize. And sometimes we look for silver linings. And the silver lining was when my mom had a stroke. If she never had a stroke, she would have still lived in Toronto. And while she was kind of estranged from most of the family, my family was the one that she still talked to. And if she was in Toronto, she never would have known Arlo at all. I would have come once a year, maybe gone to her house for dinner. She would have met Arlo once. Because of her stroke, and I moved her out here, even though she wasn't still in her top form, she was still able to come over to the house for dinner. She was still able to play Uno with us, go out for dinner, whatever it was, she got to know you. And otherwise, she never would have had that opportunity. So that was, I look as the silver lining of how things played out. And I'll just say this finally. When I was at Arlo's bat mitzvah, I remember looking out going, oh, my wife and I aren't from here. But look at all the people here. Look at the friends we made. And now I'm here today, and I think that, yeah, my brother's here, and I'm so happy my younger brother came out. I know Mom knew. I'm sure she appreciated it. But as I said, my mom had, 4 kids. My older brother passed away, 6 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren. My brother's here, thank God. But you know what? This is my family. I've lived here for 20 years. I can't thank you enough for being here today. I appreciate it tremendously. My family appreciates it. I love you all. Thank you.
We love you too, Shane. My father-in-law's middle name is Sheldon. I've never used it, but Judaism is a way of life. It's a way of life that emphasizes the importance of memory. We're commanded, Zachor, al tishkach, don't forget. Almost all of our rituals serve as memorials, as reminders. We wear a talit with its tzitzit to remind us of the mitzvot, of our obligations to the commandments in the Torah. We eat matzah on Pesach, on Passover, to remind us of the Exodus made in such great haste, and of the lechem oni, the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in Egypt. A couple breaks a glass at the conclusion of the wedding ceremony to remember the symbolic destruction of the sorrows of the Jewish people, the destruction of the temple, and experienced over the course of centuries. On Rosh Hashanah, we pray, Zochreinu l'chaim, remember us, O God, and grant us life. And our sages instituted Yizkor, the memorial service where we remember those who shaped our lives and who shared our years. This family is all too familiar with that ritual. I first met Shane nearly 10 years ago when you came to shul to say Kaddish for your dad. And Yisku. George of blessed memory, and then 2 years later for your brother Andrew. And now, Shane, you sit here together with Adam again, both dutiful and loving sons to honor and remember your mother. Memory is a mitzvah. Memory is sacred. It's important, and yet, despite Judaism's great emphasis on memory, it is impossible to remember everything. And sometimes it's better to forget. So, what should we remember about your mom? Should we remember the pain and the difficulty of this past year, these past 3 weeks, the stroke 10 years ago, that began this terrible cascade of illness and suffering? Or can we remember the joy of her living? How she loved her work for the Jewish Vocational Services, where she worked in job placement for people with special needs. How it gave her a sense of purpose and a reason to see beyond her own sorrows and challenges. Are we forced to keep in mind the anguish and the bitterness that occurs in the course of a lifetime, or the love and the understanding that we experience through the years? As I mentioned, Jeannette lost her own parents before she had turned 20 years old. As Shane explained, she started a family soon after and raised 4 children and took in her own younger sister, Beverly, right after she married George. She was a woman who was never quite content. A young mom with 4 children before she herself was 30, it could not have been easy. We know it wasn't. She would tell you that. She had the grass is always greener on the other side perspective. She could be strict and tough, and yet, as Shane said, she never missed one of his hockey games, would rush to his defense if a player knocked him down on the ice or a parent from the opposing team challenged them from the stands. Arlo, as he said, that's where he gets it. That toughness was also how she showed her love for her children, the kind of love that we only recognize when we are older, when we're out of the line of fire from our own parents. We must be selective in our memories, looking back over the years and remembering the good things, keeping in mind the shared experiences, and we should not give undue emphasis to times of adversity, to times of illness or alienation, or to times of suffering, but to the qualities that had added a dimension to our lives: the warm smile, the loving embrace, the helpful words, the wise insight. This morning, as we look back over Jeannette's life, we must also allow the sadness and the sickness to fade from our memories and do our utmost to remember the years spent together, the devotion to family, to friends, to synagogue, and to community, the good that we shared with her and the great good that she did for others. She was the president of Beth Emet Synagogue on Elder in North York. With George's longtime members, they helped build up that shul and its community. And that counts for something. It counts for a lot. She loved to read. She loved the Home Shopping Network. She could read and speak Yiddish, especially when she and George didn't want the kids to know what they were saying. She had movie star good looks, according to her son. And perhaps the silver lining, as Jane mentioned in that stroke 10 years ago, was that she moved out here. You moved her out here, both of you, to Vancouver. You cared for her, and Arlo got to know her. Got to know her grandmother in a way that she couldn't have in Toronto. Shane, you're a good son. We don't have children so that they will take care of us when we are old or when we are sick, but also not so secretly. We hope that we will raise children and instill in them such values that they will do as our Torah teaches, to rise before the aged, to honor their parents. You have done that. You stepped up and you stepped in with a full heart and shouldered so much of the responsibility. And Adam, you and your sister Denise, I don't know either of you as well as I know your brother, but I'm certain that you did all that you could do under what I know and have heard are challenging and emotionally complex circumstances. You are a good son, too. Yes, we must be selective in our memory, neither focusing too much on the bad or painting such a Pollyannish picture that it is divorced from the reality of our own experience. And our tradition teaches that we should remember our loved ones for blessing, but it is up to us to find the blessing in our memories, to make it a thing of beauty and value from the collection of stories and experiences that we shared with Jeannette. And we're capable of doing this no matter how tragic our individual circumstances may be. The great preacher, the Maggid of Dubno, taught this in a striking parallel. It might be a story familiar to you. A king once owned a large, pure, beautiful diamond of which he was justly proud, for it had no equal anywhere in the land. And one day that diamond accidentally sustained a deep scratch. And the king called in the most skilled diamond cutters and offered them a great reward if they could remove the imperfection from his treasured jewel. But none could repair the blemish, and the king was sorely distressed. After some time, a gifted lapidary came to the king and promised to make that rare diamond even more beautiful than before this mishap and the scratch that it endured. The king was impressed by his confidence and entrusted his precious stone to his care. And the man kept his word. With such superb artistry, he engraved a lovely rosebud around the imperfection. And he used that scratch to make the stem. Jeannette did that with the scratches and the cracks in her own life. As Leonard Cohen sings, it's through the cracks in everything that the light gets in. Though life bruised and wounded her, she used those very scratches to carve out a life for herself and to raise a family, to contribute to her community, and to make a difference in the lives of others. And we must do the same. Through the cracks where the light gets in the nicks and scuffs and wounds and hurts that we all collect as we tumble through life with each other, we can find the hidden beauty in the life that we shared with her. And we can thank God. We can thank God for the lessons learned and the memories, even if they are selective. Those are the ones that we should focus on. Those are the ones we need to appreciate, and those are the ones that we cherish. May her memory and our memory of her be a blessing. Amen. Friends, there is one more prayer that we're going to say here in our chapel, and then we'll go to graveside for interment and Kaddish. I'm going to ask you please to rise as I chant the words of Amalei Rachamim. Amalei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromi, Amitzeh Minucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfecha Shechina, Im Kedoshim U'Tachori, Kezochar Hakim Asiri, את נשמת יוכבד בת אברהם בדבורה, שחלל עולמה, בעל הרחמים, יסתירך, ושאת כנפיו לעולמי, ויצור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Jeannette who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. Amen. If I could ask the pallbearers to please come and stand beside the casket. We're going to follow in procession behind the family to the graveside, where we'll say Kaddish and do the interment. You can come back for that. It's okay. It's fine. Please follow us if you would. מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומבחינתו איש שני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומתו מלך, מלך ממית ובחיים מלך ישועה. מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומבחינתו איש שני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומתו מלך, מלך ממית ובחיים מלך ישועה. חיים חסד מחיים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומבחינתו איש שני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומתו מלך, מלך ממית ובחיים מלך ישועה. Okay, Rabbi did a good job. I'm going to pull out my holiday sermon next. Thank you. You're welcome, Adam. Do you have your copy? No. I know I haven't done it. So guys, the ribbon that you're wearing, the Kriya ribbon, Kriya means to cut or to tear. It reminds us of the story of Job who rent his garments and learned the loss of a loved one, so too our hearts are torn in grief. Just as clothing can be stitched together, it'll always show a seam. Hearts which are torn in grief that heal, but they'll always show a scar. We're going to tear the ribbon now, we're going to say a blessing together. Repeat after me. Adonai Natan. Adonai Natan. Adonai Lekach. Adonai Lekach. Baruch Shem. Baruch Shem. Adonai Mevorach. Adonai Mevorach. Baruch Dayan. Baruch Dayan. Ha'emet. Ha'emet. Eternal God has given him wisdom beyond our understanding. God has taken away. Blessed be God's glorious name forever and ever. Blessed be the Judge of truth. Amen. Amen. Friends, before we recite Kaddish, there's a poem in the inside of your handout. I've learned later that it's one of Shane's favorites. So let's read this, or I'll read it and you can listen as we remember Jeannette. When I die, if you need to weep, cry for someone walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around others and give them what you need from me. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands and souls touch souls. You can love me most by sharing your joys and multiplying your good deeds. You can love me most by letting me live in your eyes and not in your mind. And when you say Kaddish for me, remember what our Torah teaches. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that is left of me is love, give me away. The Kaddish prayer is on the opposite page. Boys, you can begin and I'll join you. Yikadal, Yikadash, Shemei Rala, Yoma, Nivrach, Yerute, Vyomnif, Malchute, Hayachon, Vyomechon, V'chayei, V'chol, Beit Yisrael, V'agalav, V'zman Karim, V'meru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba, Mevarach, Le'olam, Olamei Olmaya. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitar, V'yitroman, V'yinaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei, Kudusha, B'richu, Le'elam Minko, Birchata, V'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Daminron Me'alma, V'meru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'yakol Yisrael, V'meru, Amen. Osei Shalom V'murma, Huya Asei Shalom, Aleinu V'yakol Yisrael, Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'meru, Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn comfort this family, and by family I mean not just these two, but you're all family here, and a circle of friends, and we say together, Amen. Amen. So we're going to do that one mitzvah that no Jew can do for themselves and can never be repaid, and that is to be the gentle hands that carry Jeannette to her final rest, to place earth around the casket to tuck her in. So I'm going to ask her sons and her daughter-in-law and her granddaughter, I know all of their names, I could just say, and Arlo and Andrea and Adam and Shane, to come and place earth, and then I'll ask you all to help us fulfill this mitzvah as well. As you well know, it's customary to place 3 shovels of earth. For that first shovel often to be used with the shovel upside down so that it's not normal shoveling that we're doing, but then to turn it right side up because there's a practicality in Judaism as well. And then return the shovel to the earth so that each can fulfill the mitzvah. The last thing I'll add is that the handout that you have, it's called Shemot. It has God's name on it, and so we don't throw these away. The traditional way to dispose of this would be to bury it. So if you don't want to take the program with you, please place it in the grave as you do your shoveling, and we'll surround Jeannette with words of Torah. Guys, go ahead. Friends, if you're able to help us with this, there's shovels on both sides. Please, of course, be careful as you come around the grave. I know. I didn't end up in my car. And then they end up with the church. Right, you do our own. Whenever Ron needs to dig a hole, bring him some. Yeah. Thanks, Rabbi. All right. Yeah. So friends, we need to fully cover the casket. So if you're able to come and do some more shoveling, we need to have it fully covered with earth. Not all the way up to the level of the grass, but fully covered. And focus on this inside edge. And yeah. Okay, that's sufficient, everyone. Thank you. We'll finish the rest. Thank you. Friends, this concludes our service here. There is a Shiva Minyan on Sunday night at Temple Sholom at 7 p.m. If you'll join me in offering this family traditional words of comfort, and you'll repeat after me, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Sha'ar Avalei Zion B'Yerushalayim. May God console you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. May her memory be a blessing. Amen. Thank you all. Thank you very much.